Welcome back, y'all, and happy Tuesday. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Today, we're going to be going through several things with multiple different sports. As always, y'all, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I want to talk some about our baseball team. I want to talk some about the transfer portal. We'll update you on the OV list. We'll take a look at the power rankings for our football team coming from ESPN, and we'll talk some about this house settlement thing. How is it going to impact Tennessee moving forward, like not just for the football team, but for everybody, but really mostly for the football team. So let's go ahead and get started. As y'all know, softball team lost yesterday. I think that they had a good season. Carlin Pickens, it feels like she threw close to like 1,000 pitches within the course of maybe like a couple of weeks. So, just really, really gritty effort, I think, by everybody. One of the things that I've been wondering, I was thinking about this yesterday, really, like, can we maybe allocate $50,000 from the football team and from the basketball team and use that towards the NIL for our softball team? Go out and get you. Feels like you need to have like a couple of ace pitchers, and then you also probably need 2 or 3 sluggers. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just do that and let's go win a daggum national championship. I feel like we're really close, but the hitting, that's what's been hurting our softball team. Either way, hopefully we can get things figured out for next year. But I also want to talk about our baseball team because obviously, man, I feel like we're back. What happened last night? I mean, Doyle goes out there, he breaks our single season strikeout record, which is big. But I think that for this team, it's built off of batting. It's built off of the offense, scoring points, hitting home runs. And it felt like once Levi Clark got hit, and he got pissed off, the whole team kind of got pissed off, and then we're seeing home runs, and we just really rallied. So I think that we need to maybe play with that edge, which it feels like we try to do, but I don't know if we need to have somebody that's going to kind of chirp back and forth with us. I don't know exactly what it's going to take, but we gotta find that moving forward. Going up against Arkansas, in Arkansas, it's not a place that Tennessee teams have done a great job at. Like we always struggle there. But I think that this team is built to win this whole doggone thing still. I still feel like we're probably the most talented team in college baseball. It's either us or it's Arkansas. I think the commentator spoke on that yesterday. But either way, if we come out fired up, obviously the crowd, I think, last night did a great job of, just feeding our players energy. Whoever's going to this game, we got to do the exact same thing all the way through. And if we do that, if this team feeds off of our energy, then of course we can win the whole doggone thing. Can we go out here and get it done in 2 games in this in the super regionals? We will see. But I'm proud of what they're doing. And like I said, I feel like we're kind of, maybe we found our swag. It's like maybe we got that back, because last year's team, they definitely had it. So we'll see. I think that the game is going to be on Saturday. I think it starts at 5, maybe 5:30, something like that. So, man, if we can get that first win, I think that we are in a great spot. So either way, let's go on ahead and move on. Let's talk about some basketball stuff. And I'm gonna get to these chats real quick. Let me see who all we got in here for the chats. So this right here, what's going on, bro? Thank you for joining us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Try to get this one started up right at noon today. That's typically what we want to do with all these live streams. Try to catch people on their lunch breaks and things like that. What's going on, brother? Yes, sir. You already know. Okay, that's saying that you live in Yulee, Florida, and then fools running around everywhere now. 6 years ago, there wasn't any of the UGA pride going on. Yeah, I mean, you already know that that's going to happen with people are just like bandwagoners. You know what I'm saying? They just want to jump on the train. Right here from Riley. So we will talk some about that as well. There was a pretty good video that came out earlier today from VolQuest, where, I think that they did a good job of breaking down what's going on with the future classes, but also with 2026. But we will update you on the visits for this weekend. So let's start off right here, though. I want to talk about a guy that did visit our basketball team yesterday, if I can find this daggum tab. So he was up yesterday. His name is Ryan Cornish. He would be a 2-guard. He played at Dartmouth last season. Y'all can see his numbers. He shot about 37% from 3 last year. So those are good numbers. I looked at his game, and I actually think that he's, I think he's pretty solid. I think he's a pretty good, he can ball some. He can get to the rim. Listed at 6'4". I think that whenever he came in, it was kind of like a tryout. So sounds like he might have listed in it at about 6'3", which isn't a problem. I don't think personally, but either way, I had to bring this up, even though it does sound like Tennessee won't be moving forward with Ryan. So, we would probably still want to add a guard. Sounds like Tennessee's still looking for one, but we're not going to overpay. We're not going to overreach. It's got to be a perfect fit. It's going to be tough for that to happen with how deep we've already gotten into this, transfer portal. A lot of the players I'm sure that we've already looked at. Now we're kind of going through like the second and third waves of guys and seeing who do we feel like we could bring in. But yeah, for players like this, who again, I think he's good. It sounds like it's more of a tryout on these visits, but hopefully we can get that fifth year. That's the main thing that I'm looking forward to. So next, I want to talk about. Let's talk about some football transfer portal stuff. So right here, man, I've told y'all that I feel like Tennessee still needs to try to add another wide receiver. I'm just going to show you a couple of guys that are still out there in the portal that maybe Tennessee might try to add. Haven't heard any smoke with it, but I just wanted to kind of show you these guys. So the first guy is Bridges. He played at Central Arkansas. Y'all can also see that he played at Oklahoma for his first couple of seasons. Didn't really get on the field very much there. Pretty good numbers, though, coming from Central Arkansas. Obviously, that's a lower classification. I think that he's got good size, 6'1", 6'2", about a $185. Older guy. Would he be willing to come back and play on the Power 4 level and the SEC level and be a guy that's kind of coming off of the bench in his last year? Obviously, if he's in the portal, he wants to try to go somewhere that's probably on a higher level. So if he hasn't got, much movement from other programs, then this could be a situation where, hey, Tennessee can go out and add him and won't cost us too much, but it'll give us another body. That's the main thing that I feel like our football team needs. So the other player at wide receiver that we'll take a look at is Cortez Bram. I hope I'm saying his name right. So he's another senior, 6'2", about 200 pounds. Played at a lower classification, kind of like similar thing going on here, but you can see he has really, really good numbers. So both of these players, I would look at them as inside, outside guys. That's what we need, just because that's going to add that depth. And again, I have not heard anything at all from the insiders or nothing saying that Tennessee's actually going to target these players, saying that Tennessee's looking to bring in anybody else. Because right now, our players are already going through their summer workouts. I've been looking at, some of the pictures and clips and things like that on social media. And I'm going to tell you, we look good. So Jaden Lofton, boy, he's looking real. I don't know how much he weighs. Looks like he's probably over about, he might be over 275, y'all, 275, 280 or something like that. So, we've got, let me get this thing on up out of here. So we've got, some players that I think will maybe step up in ways that we didn't think they would, possibly as some underclassmen, but we'll see. What does the staff really want to do to bring in one more body? I think that would be great, just so that we don't have too much stress. Because if we stay healthy at wide receiver, we're going to have a really, really good room. But this is a game of injuries. You know what I'm saying? Like that just tends to happen. So let me come on back. And see what all everybody's talking about, and then we're going to shift gears and move on to some other things. See if we got some more. So right here. So Riley's saying that we got to land him for our basketball team. Yeah, so it doesn't sound like we're going to move forward with it. Like I said, that was more like a trial situation, and the trial probably, because we might only have one more spot left. So you might want to keep on looking through, and if we have to circle back around to him, then we just have to be sure that we're bringing in somebody that we feel like can really help us. I think that the roster looks really good, but as I've said several times, I'm looking more towards, man, it would be a hell of a thing if we can get that fifth year, get ZZ back, get Gainey back. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's really what this team wants to do. If it's realistic, we don't know. I mean, a lot of things with the house settlement, that's moving very, very slow. So thoughts on Anderson? Who is Anderson? You would have to tell me who this Anderson is, because I'm not sure who you're talking about. But let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to show y'all some I'm going to update you on a couple of players that will be coming up for the OVs this weekend. And, we talked about Tristan Gibbons maybe coming up for us this weekend, us or Florida State. From listening to what happened on VolQuest, it sounds like he won't be up with us this weekend, so I guess he is going to Florida State. But Tristan Gibbons will still be coming up. What weekend it is, I don't know, just because I can't see it with On3. The dates and all that stuff is off. It might be next weekend. It might be on the 20th. But I just think that the sooner that we can get him in, probably better for us, because you don't want him going out and choosing a different program. So let's take a look at the first player right here. This is going to be Luke Thompson. He plays at Franklin, Tennessee. So he's an in-state guy. And as y'all can see, I don't know if this is the wrong profile, but I don't see any star ratings, nothing like that. 6'1", 180 pounds, listed as an athlete. I don't know if Tennessee wants him to play at safety or what, but I'm gonna go ahead and bring up his highlights for y'all, and we can talk about what I see with his game on the field. Let me bring this thing on up. So, all right, so my bad. This one right here. All right, so this is him. Seeing him playing at wide receiver some. I think that he's got good straight line speed. Obviously, if he's playing safety or a wide receiver, he's going to have solid size. So that's always big. As far as him playing at safety, honestly speaking, we'll see him at safety here in a couple of clips. I don't know. I don't know how much his game would really translate to this level. And it could be a situation where, maybe he's not really asked to do some of the things that he might do in Tennessee's scheme. So it's kind of hard to tell, but I don't know if safety would be his best place. I think that would be, he might be a guy that we're bringing up as kind of like a depth piece and see, hey, we need to add some numbers here. We'll see what he turns into in the next couple of years type of a deal. But he can definitely hit. So if he is playing safety, I like him more playing inside of the box. Can he maybe grow into a linebacker? I say that all the time. Being out, we always talk about that. I love the guys that, they've got the, kind of like a skill set that's similar to what a SEC safety would have, but they've got the frame where maybe they could grow into a linebacker, and all of a sudden, you got a linebacker that can play out in space really, really well. I could see maybe more of that sort of a deal. Or, maybe they like him playing on offense. I'm not quite sure. But either way, this is how his highlights look. He will be up at some point this weekend. I don't know who the competition is, just because y'all saw with the on-3 profile, there's really nothing there. So, in-state guy, I feel like we should be in a really, really good spot with him. I have no idea what other offers he has. I'm sure that he's got some other Power 4 offers. I don't know if Tennessee's fully offered him. Typically, if guys come up on some OVs, you will have already offered him. Sometimes, maybe even in a situation like this, where you think, hey, this guy could be more of like a depth piece. Let's bring him up on campus, see how he looks, type of a thing, see what his personality is. Does he kind of check off all those boxes? And if he does, then maybe he'll get the offer there. But either way, like watching him here playing at safety, you can see him coming down. He takes good angles. I think he's going to make some good tackles. But as far as the coverage part of it, I don't know if that would translate not to the SEC. So that's just my thoughts with it. And then we're going to move on, and I'm going to show y'all the other safety that's supposed to be coming up, and we'll talk about what all he has going on. Take a look at his film and all that good stuff as well. And let's shoot. I need to get rid of some of this stuff. I got one too many tabs up, y'all. It makes it hard to navigate through. All right, so let's take a look at the next safety, KJ. So he's from Jersey, and with him being from Jersey, y'all already know sometimes it's hard to pull those players. He's got pretty good size, listed, close to 6 feet tall, only 160 pounds. And y'all see once we look at his highlights, if he will be playing safety on this level, he will have to gain a lot of weight. You can tell that he's willing to hit, but he's going to have to gain some weight to play that on this level. It might be a guy that we're looking at to play at star or at corner, but either way, I think the Penn State probably going to be an issue. Anytime you got the guys coming from that Northeast region, especially like that Jersey, Pennsylvania area where they're, listen, if you're talking about East Coast, like the up north East Coast, that's the best football in that little area. So Penn State, they'll probably be his first choice closer to home. He might fit Big Ten ball a little bit better than he would SEC ball, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Especially, again, playing at safety. So let me go on ahead and we'll pull up his highlights and everything, and y'all can see how that looks. All right, so boom. So this is him right here, junior season, 50 tackles, pretty good. Like I said, the level of football up there is not going to be like in the South, but they will have some good players kind of sprinkled in here and there. So, there's some powerhouse programs up there. And I think that they're pretty well coached. It's just not the same caliber of athletes as what you would see anywhere down south, really. But, I think that he's got some good skills. So looking at him here, he's got a pretty good burst, taking some pretty good angles. Obviously, he's making some plays here. I think he's got some good ball skills. So I think that his coverage would be, he could probably play coverage on this level. It's kind of like the flip-flop of what we talked about with Luke in the previous, clips that we just looked at, is that with him, again, he's willing to be physical, but can he gain the weight? Does he have the frame? It looks like he can gain at least 25-ish pounds, but really to play safety in the SEC, you got to be close to about 200. Like, you got to be up over about 195, I would say, just because you have to you're going to be asked to do a lot. You know what I'm saying? Just as far as the physical part of it, you're going up against grown men, whether it's offensive linemen, whether it's tight ends, whether it's running backs, whatever, even the freaking wide receivers sometimes. So you have to have that weight coming with you. But if the staff likes him, I trust it. Is he a guy that we've already offered? I think that we've probably already offered him, just kind of based off of his film. But this should maybe give you like a little bit of an inside look at how, what is Tennessee looking like as far as safeties go. Now, Joel Wyatt will be up this weekend also. P and I have said this a million times. A lot of y'all said the exact same thing. Want him playing at safety, like him more playing out in space, instead of asking him to gain 50 or 60 pounds and putting his hand in the daggum dirt or even standing up coming off the edge. That's a whole different ball game. So, that would be one good safety. There's a few other guys that are coming up that do play safety. So I think that we need to try to bring up as many safeties as possible in our OVs, because we really need to land, I would say, at least 2 in this class, if not 3. So this could potentially be one of those guys, right? It's kind of going to be about, man, you would love to get a couple of guys that you feel comfortable that, hey, they could physically stand up to SEC competition. And it'll be a matter of, hey, we're going to give you a chance to kind of learn on the fly sort of a thing. I don't know if you can necessarily say that about this player here. I think he's probably a couple years away physically from being able to play in the SEC. So if we're going to add 2, I would say more. If we're going to add 3, for me, he would be like the 3rd guy. But you got to get in at least 2. All right. So with all that being said, y'all, the next thing that I want to take a look at is the power ratings with our Tennessee Volunteers. So this just came out from ESPN. And, we'll take a look at where Tennessee kind of stands at next to everybody else. I don't know if y'all have already seen this, but let me see if I can find it right here. All right. So this is where we are at with it. And man, I got way too many tabs up here. This is going to be a problem. All right. So this is how this is how ESPN's power index looks. And our Tennessee Volunteers are sitting at number 10 in the power index. So I think that's a pretty good spot. You know what I'm saying? Especially given what all Tennessee's lost. Texas being number 1, to me, that does make sense. I feel like Texas, with Arch Manning playing at quarterback, with everything that really, I think that if Arch started for them last year, they probably would have won the national championship. I'm not a big, Ewers guy. Never was really high on him. So I think that they will take a huge, huge step forward. They've got dudes everywhere, so I don't disagree with that. Now, looking at UGA at number 2, a lot of that is just based off of everybody preseason. Oh, it's Georgia. It's Georgia. We're just going to crown these guys. Are they loaded with talent? For sure. But were they loaded last year? Had they been loaded for like the past decade? Of course. Who the hell is their quarterback going to be? Gunnar Stockton? This guy's not a baller. I mean, I'm not concerned. I can't wait for that game. I've said that several times. So I just kind of think that that's one of those situations where, they've got a guy high, or they've got a team high up that maybe doesn't, they didn't really earn it. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that they've earned it. Yeah, they won the SEC last year, but they also lost 2 or 3 ball games. It's just kind of how things slotted out. Texas just couldn't beat them, because to beat Georgia, you need a quarterback that can ball. I mean, Quinn, he's not really that dude. Y'all see the Bamas right here sitting at 3, Buckeyes there, Penn State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, the daggum Hurricanes, and then you've got our Tennessee Volunteers right here. And actually Clemson's under us. So just like looking at, they're saying that, maybe 8, almost 9 wins coming up. So 8-4, you know what I mean? Whatever, 8-5, maybe 9-4, whatever, something like that. That's what they're thinking. I feel like Tennessee, that's a pretty good spot. Who are the 4 losses though? UGA, I'll call that a coin flip. Alabama, that one's going to be tough. Florida's going to be tough, especially later on in the season. But that could actually benefit Tennessee. And then I'll probably say OU. I think Oklahoma, they got ballers, at quarterback. I think that they've got a really nice offensive system. They got studs pretty much everywhere. So those are, I guess, the 4 that you would say. But hey, if we could win one of those, then I feel like Tennessee should be a playoff team. So just as far as everything else, y'all can see that they're giving us about a 98% chance of getting 6 wins. I would take that bet all day long, because Tennessee, I feel like we'll get 6 wins for sure. To win the conference, 4.2%. To make it to the playoffs, about 38.5%. To make the national championship game, 5.6%. And then to win it, they have us at 2.3%. So as I've said, if this team comes out, if the quarterback, finds the confidence and that they're balling, If the young wide receivers stay healthy, because they will, ball, the offensive line is going to be fine. The defense is going to be great. What about the safeties? We got to find some depth there. Excuse me, but I think that this team is better than people might be giving us credit for. So either way, I'm gonna pull this thing on back up. Come on back over, see if we have any more chats, and then we're gonna move on to the last little segment right here. Let me get this thing on up out the way. All right, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of navigation. Let me see, what all do we have right here? Oh, okay. So Riley's talking about Brandon Anderson. Yeah, so I think that he's going to come back to Tennessee. That's something that the insiders have kind of already hinted towards. I think that he really likes us. One of my questions with him is, everyone's saying, hey, this is a guy that you want, playing at daggum, playing at guard. For me, I might like him at tackle. So it's good to have some guys that are versatile from that standpoint. And why it could be like a Deion Grant. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of similarities. What was Deion Grant, about 6'3"? Wyatt is 6'4". I think he's over 6'4", might be closer to 6'5". And by the time he's done filling out in a couple of years, we're talking about 220 pounds. Easy. If he gets up to close to like 230, I'll say if he gets up over 235, you put him at backer. And but shoot, he could probably play safety at like 6'4", 6'5", 230, 235 pounds. That's like a Taylor Mays that played at SC back in the day. I think he was 6'4", 240, 240. I mean, listen, Coach Carroll, he knew how to go find some studs. And saying, okay, hey, look, I sure hope that you're right. I hope that we don't lose to Florida. All right, so let me get this thing back up and rolling, y'all. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of navigation, so just bear with me while I'm getting it going. And actually, you know what? I'll tell you what we're gonna do first. First thing is first. I want to take a look at this article that came from Yahoo Sports. So that's going to be the first one there. And let me take this on up out the way. Boom. All right. So there we go. So let me pull up this article first, y'all, from Yahoo Sports, because there's some parts in here that I absolutely, I think it's going to shed a lot of light on what's going on with the NIL, with the house settlement. We talked about Tennessee being in a spot where we could have, said, hey, we're not going to sign off on this stuff that all the Power 4 schools are trying to get everyone to, or the Power 4 conferences are trying to get all the schools to sign off on, saying that, hey, y'all are going to have to go by this house settlement rule, even though it violates so many antitrust things. And I'm going to see if I can zoom this thing on in for y'all. All right, zooming in just a little bit. So either way, we're going to scroll down. I've got a little piece right here that I had highlighted. I don't know. I might not have it highlighted anymore, but there's a couple of things that stood out to me with Kirby Smart talking about, how there are some teams that are out here paying players that are in high school to choose their school. He said that it's outside of the SEC, which isn't true, but paying players to choose their school and to stick with their school. All right, so what's happening in the SEC, I can tell you about some other programs where it's happening there too, but I'm not going to snitch like that. So I'll just say it this way, though. Those players, if they don't end up going to that program, they have to pay back the money that was paid to them from that institution. Typically, it's coming from the new school that they choose. So that's pretty prevalent. Players are also, oh, here it is right here where he's saying that $20,000 a month is what some of these high school kids are getting. So obviously Kirby Smart doesn't like that because he's not a guy that wants to pay these kids at all. It's one of those people. And let me see. Okay, so this is the paragraph that I wanted to pull y'all down to. And it's not just that, but players also getting paid to go on visits. So, I've heard a couple $1,000s. That is also coming from SEC schools. There's a lot of programs that are doing it. If you're one of the highly rated players, you're gonna make a lot of money. So talking about this house settlement thing that everyone's signing off on now, Tennessee signed off on it, even though we had the state law that could have kept us from having to do that. It would have stood up in court if we wanted to challenge it. But what's coming up, y'all, is of course revenue sharing. So $20.5 million for like the first couple of years is going to be split up. It's supposed to be shared with all the sports, but from what I've been hearing, it's probably only going to be the sports that are actually generating money. So football and basketball for most of these schools is where all that money is going to end up going. And then you've got NIL. So NIL is going to have a cap. They've got this third-party group coming in that's going to look at the market value for all these contracts. But here, it's just outlining what that looks like. Hopefully, y'all can see this. I hope that this is not too small for y'all's eyes. But basically, what it's saying here is the contracts that they looked at from last year, there was only 70% of them that was over $10,000 that the players still would have been eligible. So basically, they're not saying that these players can't take this money, but if you're taking it, they say, hey, this isn't market value, then the player's not eligible to play for your team. So that obviously that's the whole point of it, right? So it to me, it's looking like it's probably going to be around $10,000 for these players. They're trying to take out the big time donors and boosters from paying the kids to go out there and play type of a thing. But for me, I'm like, it's still going to happen. I feel like it's going to trickle down more to like high school, because I don't think that they could necessarily punish the kids that are in high school for taking this money from these teams. Maybe they can punish the teams, but I think that, of course, everyone's going to find ways to get around all these rules. That's why everyone's looking to see what are the rules really, so they can find ways to kind of circumvent it. But outside of that, the deals that were coming from, I guess, kind of like bigger, like real companies, like a Coca-Cola's, that's the one that I always throw out. They're saying that's like 80% of those, those were less than $10,000 that would have been still eligible, and saying that 99% of those was less than $100,000. So what we're looking at now is it's going to be like a market value based off of, I don't know exactly what their algorithm is, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be very similar to, like, looking at what the social media following is for these kids and seeing what their value would be if they're getting a real deal from any big time company. And if you don't have a huge following, you're not going to make a lot of money. So it's going to be a lot of players that maybe their contracts right now could go down because we got several guys that are making six figures. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're making a lot of money. Will their new contracts go down to like $10,000? If that happens, I think that that's a major, major problem. People will sue. I can absolutely guarantee you that. I think that that's coming really, really soon. Now, the institutions can't sue, but the individual players can. So it's going to get really, really messy, I think, very, very quickly. And I'm going to bring up something else for y'all here real quick. And, we'll talk about what's going to matter more moving forward for all these players, right? Because I kind of feel like it's going to go back to, more like old school stuff where, you're going to be looking at different things. And we'll talk about what those different things are. Obviously, one of the biggest things is always going to be about the hold on, let me see if I can get this thing fixed. One of the biggest things is always going to be about the wins and losses. Is going to be about, how do the are you putting players in the league? Are you sending them to that next level? That's going to be huge. So bear with me while I get this thing pulled up, and we will we'll break this whole thing down. I'm going to show you how things looked prior to NIL, how things are going to be looking after, or how things have looked since NIL. And just bear with me for 1 second. We're going to go ahead and get this thing rolling. I think that we are. Hold on. What is this, the correct one? I don't know if this is the right one either. So hold on 1 second, John. I might not even be able to get this daggone thing up. And I hate that, because now it's starting to act up. But biggest point that I'm trying to make here, y'all, is that it's going more back to like the old school ways where the players are looking at those certain key metrics. And if your team doesn't have those metrics, then you're going to be more like on the outside looking in. And, I think that Tennessee can find a way to kind of circumvent it, because we did it in some of the earlier years. We've got guys on our staff that understand what it takes to, bring in these players. Like, we got Rodney Garner, who they used to call him the bag man, right? And he understands for sure how to, circumvent rules, how to circumvent laws and all that type of stuff. Okay, so now I think I might have got this thing right. But so he knows how to do all of that. We got a lot of old school coaches. I wish that Coach Foreman was still close to this program, because he could most definitely help us get that done. So now let me come on back over, and we're going to get this thing pulled off for y'all. So sorry about that. Sometimes these daggum streams end up going crazy. All right, so I think, okay, right here. Let's go ahead and get it up. All right, so boom. All right, here we go. So this is what I want to show y'all. So this is just looking at the top 10 classes plus Tennessee from the 2020 class. And what I did here, and that's going to be in this column, you can see what the overall rankings were, but everything's actually organized based off of the average player rating, because for me, I think that that's a stronger indication of what you're actually doing, because there's some years where you can only bring in, we'll say, maybe 17 players. Other teams might be able to bring in 25 players or maybe 27 players or something like that. So if they're bringing in more players, then their class is going to be ranked higher than yours typically. But looking at this column where you can really tell how, what the average caliber of the players is, to me, that's the biggest sign of what you're doing and how these other metrics here have maybe impacted you leading up to this 2020 class. So we went back 4 or 5 years, something like that. So you can see what the overall record is for all these teams in that time span from 2016 to 2019. Again, this is prior to NIL starting, and then we'll take a look at the NFL draft picks in that same time span. You can see where Tennessee's at all the way down at the bottom. All right, so we had 9, and then national championships. I think that's big. You want to have a winning program, but the national titles, as y'all can see, it does correlate pretty strongly to how good those classes were. Conference championships, that one's big. And then I put the brands over here just for fun, because I know some people might have wanted to take a look at that. So I don't know if the brand is going to make that big of an impact, whether it's pre-NIL or post-NIL. Just doesn't feel like it necessarily is. So either way, right, this is what we're looking at here for Tennessee. We were right outside of the top 10, not that many draft picks. Okay. No national championships, just a lot of, we weren't really, scratching off most of those boxes. You'll see some other schools in here like Texas, kind of like that same thing where they're not really, scratching off too many of those boxes. So how did those teams get up there? As we just talked about, it's because we all know that, Coach Pruitt was handing out those little bags of money and stuff. That's how you can get up here. If you're one of those programs, will Tennessee have to go back to it? I mean, maybe not like that. But as I've said, I feel like the money that trickles down to the high school players, it's going to be something similar to that. I think that it's going to have to be. And, this question was brought up to me yesterday about, can Tennessee, how long is it going to take for us to get into like the top 5 with our classes? And I said, shoot, it'll probably take us several years. But one of the biggest things is going to be now with the college football playoffs, can you make it there on if we make it there, I think for the next couple of years, because also looking at all the players that we have that are on this team, look at this class, right? Like, look at the players that will be going on to the NFL from this, they were in the 2023 class. Those guys are eligible, right? We've got guys like Arion Carter, Caleb Herring. I mean, there's a lot of players. Obviously, there's some older guys that stuck around that will make it onto the league. Tennessee should have a lot more players getting drafted, I think, coming up. And then, for the next year, we've got guys like Braylon Staley, like Matthews, just several more guys that will, go on to that next level, not just from our defense, not just from our front 7, but, in a lot of other areas. And then I feel like players will start to choose Tennessee more. So these types of metrics, it's going to mean more, obviously, for us moving forward. Now, let me see if I can take y'all on over to the next one here. Because I do have another one that I wanted to show y'all. All right, boom. All right, so this is going to be post NIL. All right, so this is how things look now, right? This is leading up to the 2026 class. So you can get a good idea of where Tennessee kind of measures up at versus the top 10 classes for 2026. Obviously, this class is not done. It's gonna look very, very different. We got programs like USC. They've got like 25 commits or something like that. Like we just talked about, sometimes teams just have a lot more players. So that's why they're ranked as high as they are. But also, like their average rating, it's not bad. Again, this is organized based off of the average rating. So Tennessee's up there. You know what I mean? Look at the record, way better than what it was. You can see the NFL draft picks. That's getting better. This is Coach Heupel doing his thing. And then, national championships haven't gotten there yet. Conference championships, that hasn't come yet. We're still with Nike. I think that's about to change. So hopefully with whoever Tennessee does sign this new brand deal with, it's got to be something where, hey, and this is going to be huge too, because it feels like with that third-party company that's looking at all these NIL deals, if it's coming from a real company, I don't feel like it's going to be as stringent, right, as if it's coming from, like one of these big time boosters and donors. So if whoever our new sponsor is can actually allocate some real funds to Tennessee's NIL, that's huge. That will give us a huge, huge step over most of these other programs, because as I've said, the NIL portion of it, that's about to start to get even for as long as this lasts, which I don't think is going to be long, but for as long as it does, we have to be one of the programs that, that the NIL funds, they can be kind of checked off by this third-party company that's looking at the market value, and we can get our players paid more from the high school ranks all the way up in college, for, with those transfer portal players. And that could help us also, get over that hump and, take that next step forward where we are now winning the national championships and the conference titles. That's really the only thing that I feel like at this point Tennessee's not really doing. Again, it's going to take us some time to get the NFL players, but that number is going to start to even out. Are we going to be able to catch up with like the Alabamas and stuff? It's going to take us a while to. But over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, I think that Tennessee can most definitely get there. So, hopefully all those things do make sense. Hopefully y'all can see everything that I have up. Let me come back over. Oh, you know what? And you'll have to excuse me because I can see that some of it is actually covered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if maybe I can move this. Let me see if I can move this thing over and maybe y'all can see it better from this side. Okay, there we go. So now y'all can see how everybody looks. So this is the post NIL, and we might go back to the pre NIL as well. But let me get to some of these chats. Let me see what people are talking about right here. So who do you think will be our next commit in 2026 after Zach Groves? That's a pretty good question. I don't know. I'm hoping that it's like a Tristan Givens, but it might end up being Joel Wyatt. I mean, maybe. I don't know if he's planning on taking on all of his visits at this point. Maybe he comes into Tennessee and he just pulls the trigger because he was just up here, like a couple of weeks ago. But I think it's going to be a pretty highly rated player. I think that this class is going to end up strong. It might not be, it's going to be close to top 10, I feel like. But I think that outside of the overall ranking, I think that we'll hit on the needs of this class. Something else, too, the guy that we talked about yesterday, Baker, I said that he was an offensive lineman. I think Tennessee wants him to play at tackle for us, so that's even better. That's what we need, probably more than guards in this class. So let me get to the next one from my dog right here, saying that Bama knows how to push them car leases and house leases. They 100% do. And Kirby took the Saban playbook to that useless city, then play Fast and Furious videos. Yeah, man. And so that's the other part of it is that Kirby, learned from Saban. That's the Alabama way. And they're going to be on the same page with what they want to get pushed out, what they feel like will help them to kind of, stay up on top of that SEC, one of the best teams in the country. And that's why anything that they're pushing for, I don't think that we should want to do, because I just don't think that Tennessee is necessarily in the best spot to be able to operate that way. And also saying that as long as we stay around top 10 and keep strong defense, we will always be a top with a chance. 100%. Like I've said, Coach Heupel does more with less. Kirby Smart could never do that, right? Like if we go back to this one, I'm gonna come back to this one and show y'all. Kirby Smart, he has to have number one classes to be able to win the daggum, to be able to win a national championship. So now that y'all can see this whole thing, look at that. Kirby, where they at right here? So they have the number one class in this season. You know what I'm saying? They go on to win the national championship. Now, obviously, it wasn't just from that class. They had been stacking up really good classes for a long time. This is 2020. What? So I actually should have kind of was, because what they wanted in 21 and 22, something like that. So yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have like the best roster in the whole country, absolute best, stacked up back to back with a ton of depth, Scott didn't have a chance to win a national championship. So that's why I say stop crowning this guy. All right, let's stop crowning him and let's show some love to Coach Heupel, because he's doing a lot more with less. But I'm looking forward to this football season. I'm looking forward to getting some more information about how the summer workouts are going. Like I said, guys are out there. I think they're mostly doing like lifts, getting in shape, doing a bunch of running and all that, just getting bigger, faster, stronger, which are off to a good start from that standpoint. The quarterbacks are probably all throwing with those wide receivers. Everybody should be working, full time, multiple times every single freaking day, trying to win a daggum national champion. That's what I'm talking about. Like, let's not even, first game versus Syracuse, we're going to be fired up for that. Okay. I don't want to necessarily say, like, let's look past them, but we better be damn getting ready for UG freaking A. We go out there and we stomp a mud hole into them inside of Neyland Stadium. I think that everybody's going to be put on notice about this team. And I think that we're built to do it, y'all. I sincerely do. But either way, those are my thoughts, man. Just wanted to update y'all on a couple of things. We're going to get to the rest of these chats real quick. Let me see. I think this one right here is the next one, saying that Braylon Staley looks swole as hell. He sure did, didn't he? Man, his shoulders and all that. Yeah, he looks yoked up. I'm telling y'all, he's a problem. I think that everyone should understand that now, but I think that he's still kind of slept on. He's a major problem. But also saying that that dude added some more muscle this offseason. Yeah, I don't think he's done either. I think that all those guys in that picture, I think that Matthews looked good. I think that Travis Smith looked good. We got some dogs on the outside. Saying that I see Georgia and Alabama. Yes, they are on a downward slope for sure. look like what Tennessee did during the down years. Kirby was a second-rate linebacker at best, and only season he has beat us has been talent. Yeah, so Kirby played safety, but yeah, he was a second-rate safety, like for sure. And yeah, and I think that with the way that things are kind of trending back in their favor, they might start to pull away again. But with this first season, Tennessee has a chance to, I think, kind of keep building where players will want to come and play for us. We don't necessarily have to overpay them, because I feel like I know for sure Tennessee was paying more than what UGA was. As far as Alabama, things might have been close. So that I think that definitely helped us out. And it wasn't just Tennessee; it was a lot of programs were paying more than Georgia, but they're still able to go out and land really, really good classes because of what they've done. People put them up on this pedestal, so players feel like, hey, I can go here. I'm going to go pro. I'm going to be winning a championship, even though that's not true. So beating them this year will be huge for us moving forward. And saying that, but hey, show be Kirby smart. Yeah, I mean Kirby, he already know about this. Kirby was playing at Tennessee, or he was playing at Georgia, excuse me, whenever we beat him 9 years in a row. He was part of that run of getting smacked around. Kiffin is as good as Kirby. Kiffin's a better coach than Kirby. I mean, we just saw Lane Kiffin just beat Kirby last season. Lane Kiffin's roster was nowhere near what Georgia's was, nowhere near it. And haven't heard any news on, okay, yeah, so I haven't heard too much necessarily. It sounds like things are going well. Sounds like he's still on schedule. So he'll probably, I'm still thinking about that Georgia game. We'll see him back. It just really all depends. I'm hoping that he can start to move around some by, maybe like by the end of fall camp, because he does. I mean, he's going to have to get himself back into shape. He's going to have to trust that he can cut on it and all that. That's a tough deal. Playing a cornerback, we all know, you got to do a lot of movement, right? Like you put a lot of stress on that knee, but he's a young guy. He's a freaking stud athlete. So I think he's going to ultimately end up being fine. And okay, Butch, yeah, yep, that's the last time that we beat Kirby. That is hilarious, but yeah, it's it's coming back around. I think that we're about to start a streak. But either way, y'all, that's going to be it. We might come back with some more thoughts if we get some updates on some different things and all of that. Let me see what this one right here is saying. Saying that Kirby and Muschamp never beat Tennessee when they played. Nope, they sure damn didn't. It's a lot of folks in that little span, former. That's why, I mean, he's always going to be one of my favorite coaches ever. But that's a big part of the reason why, like, losing to Georgia, that was, you never really even thought that was going to happen. Especially in that nice little run. But either way, y'all, thank you. As always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we might see y'all a little bit later on. Thanks. Peace.